Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Good evening, everybody. McGraw Milhaven here, host of America at Night. We're going to get right into it here. A little setup for you for the show. This hour, we're going to be talking movies, not just Rob Reiner and the sad news of the passing of Rob Reiner, but we're talking about movies, Oscar movies for this year, for this season. And we're going to talk to Max Foizey from ZeekFilm.org, who is a well-known, well-respected movie critic. So we'll get into that with him a little bit later on. Also, we're going to talk to a law enforcement expert about what the law enforcement people are going through in Providence, Rhode Island, as they try and piece together the little we know about the shooter at Brown and what they're thinking, and sort of give us a sense of what's going on as they try and rein in or try and figure out who this second person of interest is. Also, next hour, we're going to check in with an Axios senior health advisor. Talk about the measles outbreak in South Carolina. Believe it or not, you know that some people are quarantining in South Carolina because of the measles outbreak there. So we'll get into all of that, and then, of course, open phones a little bit later on. But let's first start with Rob Reiner. And last night we talked about the movie Stand By Me. And late in the third hour, we had a caller call in who was a great call. And he was talking about how much he loved Stand By Me. And I said last night that Stand By Me was it's a hauntingly beautiful movie. And the caller called in from, I think it was Maryland, and talked about how much he loved it. And then he went on to tell me what a fool I was, because while Stand By Me is a very good movie, it's not one of the greats of all time. Well, I wanted to, being new to the show, the last thing I want to do is break any rules. But I have to, because one of the rules in talk radio is you're never supposed to read anything. But I'm going to break that rule tonight. My philosophy is never know the rules and know when to break them. Well, I'm going to break the rules tonight and read you just a snippet of a guest essay today from the New York Times. It was written by Stephen King, and it was about the passing of Rob Reiner. And I'm reading this because, well, we talked about this last night, because I'm such a huge fan of Stand By Me. I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. And reading this article, this essay from Stephen King was really, really good. So if you will indulge me for just a moment, and then we'll get on to Max and get on with the rest of the show. But from the New York Times today, Stephen King writes, and I'm going to skip around. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just read the highlights, and then we can move on. But if you will indulge me, from today's New York Times, Stephen King writes, I think I saw Stand By Me in the fall of 1985. Back then it was still called The Body, which was the name of my novella on which Rob's film was based. I think he showed it to me in a room at the Beverly Hills Hotel with a rock and roll band thudding away somewhere in the distance. That band was pure 80s. The movie allowed me to enter another more innocent time, 1959. I was surprised by how deeply affected I was by its 89 minutes. I had written a lot of fiction, but The Body remained the only nakedly autobiographical story I have ever done. Those kids were my friends. We never walked down a railroad track to see a dead body, but we got up to other stuff. The story was about my reality as I lived on the dirt roads of southern Maine. There really was a junkyard dog, although his name wasn't Chopper. There really was a kid who went swimming and came out covered with leeches in surprising areas, but it wasn't Gordy LaChance, it was me. And there really was a kid who was accused of stealing milk money, although his name wasn't Chris Chambers. He borrowed it. We won't call it stealing. His mom's Bel Air, with me riding shotgun. He drove it over 90 miles an hour down Route 9 in our back country hometown. We were 11. What I'm saying is that in Rob's hands, it all rang true. The funny parts were really funny, including the Barfarama, and the dramatic parts hit me where I lived, or where I did live back in the days when John F. Kennedy was president and gas was a quarter and a gallon. I was just that torn between writing life and the lives of my friends who were living for the moment and not going anywhere in particular. When the movie was over, I thanked Rob and surprised the heck out of myself by giving him a hug. I'm not ordinarily a hugging man, but I don't think he's used to getting them. He stiffened, muttered something about being glad I liked it, and we both stepped away. I apparently wasn't done feeling my feelings. I went into the nearest men's bathroom and I sat in the stall until I got myself under control. Much later, after Rob became an auteur and I became whatever I became, we met in New York. At his behest, I took part in a political documentary about how little liking we had for Donald Trump. Rob took the brickbats and the slurs for it on Twitter with his customary grace. He was a political presence, a social commentator, and a wicked satirist. But all that still pales for me when I watch Chris Chambers say to a weeping Gordy LaChance, "You're going to be a great writer someday." That weeping boy was me, and it was Rob Reiner who put it on the screen. That is an essay today in the New York Times from Stephen King. And it goes to how hauntingly beautiful Stand By Me is. And we talked about it last night. I read this, and it moved me because even though I didn't know any of that, I didn't know how true that really was. It rang true in the hands of Rob Reiner. But it's a story, if you haven't seen it, it's a story about boys growing up and the friends you make when you're 12, and you lose touch with them until they become just another face in the crowd, and friends come in and out of your life like busboys in a restaurant. And years later, you see them, you hear them, you read about them, and you think back to when they were so important in your life. And that's why Stand By Me is such a hauntingly beautiful film, and Rob Reiner was so good at it, and why so many people are saddened with the news that Rob Reiner passed away. So thank you for indulging me. If you want to read the whole thing, it's Stephen King wrote it in today's New York Times. Stay right there. We'll talk current movies and current Oscar crop of movies next. America at Night, back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven, where the nation comes to talk. Coming to you from the heart of the nation, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
We're talking Oscar movies, maybe a little Rob Reiner, too, while we're at it. Our guest this hour is a film critic from 2004, and we've gotten into it from time to time. We agree and disagree and have great conversations, I think. Max Foizey is a member of the Critics' Choice Association, and he's a writer for ZeekFilm.org. Max, welcome to America at Night.
Well, thank you so much, McGraw. Big fan of America at Night, a big fan of yours, so thanks very much for having me on.
You betcha. Let's talk Rob Reiner. What are your thoughts as you watch the tributes come in? Obviously, it's a horrible story. It's heartbreaking. But the man made so many great movies and had so many great cameos and such a great character actor. What are your thoughts about his life and legacy?
You know, he had such a wonderful career, and he could do everything. He was an actor. He was a director. He was a political activist. He was a jack of all trades. And if you look at his pedigree, Carl Reiner, one of the great comedy writers, and that's actually how Rob Reiner started out. He got a job on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour in the writer's room when he was in his 20s. And one of his co-writers there was a little guy named Steve Martin. And he's tried his hand at acting for a while. He was actually in an episode of the 1966 Batman show, the one with Adam West. He was in an episode featuring the Penguin, and he was in one of those. You can watch that on YouTube right now. And that was about a couple of years before he auditioned to play, of course, the role that would go on to define a lot of his career, Meathead in All in the Family, which Norman Lear's show. He said that the Meathead nickname stuck with him for his entire life. He said he could win the Nobel Peace Prize, and the headline would be "Meathead wins Nobel Peace Prize," which I thought was a wonderful line. But, you know, being a film critic, loving film the way that I do, there are a lot of film nerds that will talk about what's the greatest run in cinema history for a director. You know, what are the best 3 films in a row? What are the best 4 films in a row, because that's how film nerds work. We get into the weeds like that. And the name that always popped up, this is for decades now, people would always bring up Rob Reiner, because if you look at his first 6 or 7 films, it's unbelievable the amount of range that he had as a filmmaker. All different genres, rom-coms, fantasy, courtroom dramas. I mean, horror films. I mean, he did Misery. I know you were talking about Stand By Me. He also did When Harry Met Sally. He directed A Few Good Men, which was nominated for Best Picture. So the breadth of that, I mean, all of those are very different films. And, of course, bookending his career with the Spinal Tap mockumentaries, which were both very well received. I think that he didn't get enough credit while he was still working for the range that he showed, because he could direct anything.
Yeah. The two of the things that I didn't know about him, and now you sort of go back and now people are talking about him. I knew he was involved with Seinfeld, but I didn't know he had a shouting match with Brandon Tartikoff at NBC and said, "Do not lose this show. This show will be one of the greatest shows of all time." And he got into a yelling match with Brendan Tartikoff, and I guess clearly won and proved him right. And the other one was Good Will Hunting. They sent him the script of Good Will Hunting, and he said, "You've got 2 movies here. You've got to fix this." And he became a script doctor. So, I mean, add Seinfeld and Good Will Hunting to that list of great things he helped create.
Well, he was just very well respected, and I think you look at that pedigree once again with Carl Reiner being his dad, and of course all of the work that Rob did himself. I mean, When Harry Met Sally is still the template of every rom-com that has come since then. And so I think you look at Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, they were a couple of kids writing this script, and thankfully their agent got it to Rob, who punched it up. And of course that was Academy Award winner right there. So yeah, he certainly was very well respected for people in the industry, even though I think the rank and file of us just looked at him as meathead. I mean, that was who he was, because All in the Family was the #1 rated show for 5 straight seasons. So certainly people associate him with that show. But I love the essay that you read from Stephen King about watching Stand By Me. I had heard that story before, that when he saw the film, he had a visceral reaction to it.
Yeah.
So that was really wonderful to hear that. It's a wonderful thing to revisit The Princess Bride, another great Rob Reiner film. He was just a really talented director.
Max Foizey with us, who was part of the Critics' Choice Association and a writer for ZeekFilm.org, good friend of the show. All right, so I asked you, I knew you were coming on the show, and I asked you to write me or at least send me some notes on some of the notable films of 2025 that could or couldn't be nominated for Best Picture, and we'll sort of get into that. But I was surprised on the list you sent me, K-pop Demon Hunters.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there were 5 movies this year that everybody needs to look out for as far as award season. And one of them is K-pop Demon Hunters, which is a hilarious title if you don't know anything about it, because it throws a lot of things at you right away. What is K-pop? How do you hunt demons? What's happening here? But this is an animated film that hit Netflix earlier this summer, and it became the most watched film ever in the history of Netflix. And so this captured internationally the zeitgeist, and you saw a bunch of the costumes during Halloween. The reason why I say you need to look out for it at the Oscars is because it's a pretty safe bet it will be nominated and possibly win for Best Animated Film, but also it has a soundtrack which is atop the Billboard charts. It's definitely going to be nominated. I would say a song called Golden will probably win Best Song. So we're looking at a multiple Oscar-winning film, possibly.
And it sort of came out of nowhere. I know Netflix pushed it on my 5-year-old daughter because whatever movie finished, she was watching, I don't know, Sophia the First, and all of a sudden K-pop Demon comes up and she starts watching K-pop Demons. But she was hooked the second she started watching it. So this movie kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it?
It absolutely came out of nowhere, and I think in the age where everything has to be existing intellectual property or existing IP, as the studios say, or everything has to be a remake, everything has to be a sequel. This is an original film, an original script, original characters, brand new songs, And Netflix will do that. They will queue up their new releases when you stop watching something. Their new release will play, but a lot of people will just X out. A lot of people will hit the stop button or get on with their lives. But that didn't happen with K-pop Demon Hunters. I think that the title was goofy, the storyline was something new, and those songs, if you haven't heard those songs, they're all very, very catchy. And so the next thing you know, this became a pop culture moment.
Oh, I've heard the songs a couple times. All right, let's get into these. We'll start. I got 2 minutes, and if I'm running out of time, I'll cut you off, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Yeah.
One battle after another. Tell me about this one.
One Battle After Another is based on a book by Thomas Pynchon, who is a writer for writers. He's kind of like a book nerd's writer, very esoteric, very avant-garde. And this film was directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, who specializes in those kinds of movies, things like Boogie Nights and Punch Drunk Love. It's got Leonardo DiCaprio and Benicio del Toro. It will probably, if I had to make a guess right now, it'll probably win Best Picture next year at the Oscars. A lot of the regional critics groups really love it.
What's it about?
It is about a would-be revolutionary from the 1970s who is in hiding because the government is still looking for him, kind of like a Weather Underground type of guy. But he's also just a go-nowhere stoner. That's who's played by Leonardo DiCaprio. And it's kind of the misadventures that he gets caught up in.
One Battle After Another. Now, is this out yet?
This came out a couple of months ago. It's already finished its theatrical run. It should hit streaming sometime in January.
How did I miss this? Where? That's what I don't understand about these movies, right? They're supposed to come out now, and you're supposed to you pick your choice. Which one do you want to go to? We'll see this one tonight, this one next weekend. This one came out months ago. It came in once. I don't think anybody ever heard of it.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about Oscar season and award season is once the nominations come out in January, most of the shortlisted films are re-released in theaters. They're giving everybody a chance to go see them.
All right, One Battle After Another. That's Max Foizey. He's with ZeekFilm.org. Hang tight. We'll get to more movies, more Oscar buzz, some sleepers. We'll also ask Max what his 2 or 3 best movies, undiscovered movies of the year are. We're just getting started. It's America at Night. McGraw Milhaven with Critics' Choice Association and ZeekFilm.org writer Max Foizey. Back in a moment.
You're listening to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Next hour, we're going to talk measles outbreak in South Carolina, but this hour, we're talking movies with Zeke film movie critic Max Foizey. All right, we talked about One Battle After Another. Tell me about this Weapons movie that you're so high on.
Oh, absolutely. Weapons is one of my favorite films of the year. It is on the scary side. I would call it a scary thriller. Some people would call it a horror film. And just like K-pop Demon Hunters, it's an original story. It's not based on any kind of franchise, and I love seeing that. I love seeing those new stories come out. This one is about a small community that is disturbed when the town's children all get up and leave their houses at 2 o'clock in the morning, and nobody knows where they went. So it's kind of a Pied Piper situation. It's got a great cast. You've got Josh Brolin, Julia Garner, and Amy Madigan, who and we haven't seen a lot recently. She was, I remember her being Uncle Buck's girlfriend in Uncle Buck way back when, the John Hughes movie. But she plays a really disturbing character called Aunt Gladys. And I've talked a couple times about award season and the regional critics groups. She's winning a lot of Best Supporting Actress nods. So wouldn't be surprised come Oscar time if she gets some love. But Weapons, if you like the scary stuff, it's very, very good.
Okay, so Weapons is scary, but also isn't this Sinners also a scary movie too?
Yes and no. I'm going to say yes and no on this because it's a vampire film. And so when you have a movie about vampires, then sure, okay, you're going to be a little scary, right? But do you remember how Silence of the Lambs was kind of a great thriller with some horror elements? I mean, that one features a cannibal, right? So, but some people don't really consider that a horror film because the screenplay is so good and the acting is so good. That's what I would compare Sinners to. It's really one of these elevated horror type of movies because the acting is so wonderful, the story is great. It's kind of about the transformative power of music, and that's what I would say Sinners is about. But yes, there are vampires, and so I guess you have to put it in the scary movie category.
Okay, vampire. You think this vampire movie's got the legs to be nominated for Best Picture in the Oscars?
I absolutely do. This one was directed and written by Ryan Coogler, who's worked with Marvel on the Black Panther movies, but he also did the first Creed movie and Fruitvale Station. He's worked with lead actor Michael B. Jordan many times, and he's a really talented young actor. This one has Haley Steinfeld in it as well, Delroy Lindo, just a wonderful cast. And because it has that elevated script and a wonderful screenplay, some great standout special effects and great scenes, I definitely think it would be nominated for Best Picture. Remember that Ryan Coogler, he got Black Panther nominated for Best Picture too, the only comic book film nominated for Best Picture.
Can we talk Michael B. Jordan for a second? Because I think he's probably one of the best actors living today. Even from his early days in The Wire, when he was a kid actor, through the Creed movies and whatever else, that guy is a great actor.
He absolutely is, and I hope that he'll be nominated for Best Actor because he actually plays twins in Sinners, so it's double the work. I don't know if he got double the paycheck, but he plays brothers nicknamed Smoke and Stack, which I thought was a really great gag there. But he's wonderful in this. I was just on social media and I saw somebody post a clip of Michael B. Jordan from some a soap opera. I think it might have been All My Children. So he must have been 16 or 17, and he was great on All My Children even.
Well, everyone's great on All My Children. Give me a break. Didn't Sinners come out in the summer though? Wasn't that a summer movie? Yeah.
It was, and it did wonderfully at the box office. They re-released it in IMAX just last month, right around. Well, I guess it was 2 months ago, right around Halloween, and it did gangbusters again at the box office. This is one that audiences really responded to, a neat take on the vampire myth, and I definitely think it's going to do very well.
I thought it was the death knell for a movie to be released in the summer to still be around for Oscar season.
Yeah, that's usually why a lot of the what they call Oscar bait movies, the more somber dramas, a film like Hamnet, which we can talk a little bit about if you want, those are the ones released in the fall because they think voters will remember. I think these days with streaming, though, the fact that Sinners is on HBO Max and people can hit play on it whenever they want, that might change things a bit.
All right, let's talk Hamnet because I hadn't heard anything about it until I saw a commercial for it, and they're singing the praises like this is the greatest movie ever made.
Well, this is a tough one to recommend because it is a very good film, and it's especially worth watching because of the lead actress named Jessie Buckley, who I've been a fan of for a while now. She is unbelievable in this film. But I say it's a tough recommend because it's about the death of a child. And so it's really hard to tell people, hey, go watch that movie where the kid dies. But this is based on an actual history where William Shakespeare and his wife, they had a couple of kids, a daughter, a couple of sons. Well, their youngest son died when he was 4. And that tragedy affected, of course, his marriage, but it also influenced the writing of what would become Hamlet. And, of course, it's maybe Shakespeare's most famous play. It's a wonderful work of art, and it gets into that art coming from a sense of tragedy. And so it is really, really well done. And Paul Mescal plays William Shakespeare. And it's a wonderful looking film. Chloe Zhao is our director. She did Nomadland a couple years ago, which was great. It's just a tough one to recommend because you're going to be crying.
Yeah. Is it based, obviously Shakespeare had a kid who died, but is that where how true to life is this story? I know it's obviously not. I mean, is it billed as a true story? Is it billed as based on a true story? How are they selling this one?
Well, that is a very insightful question, McGraw, because you kind of hit the nail on the head here. This is based on an actual event, but of course most of it has to be dramatized because we just don't have a lot of historical record of that time other than the fact that they lost a child, and he wrote the play afterwards. And also, his child's name was Hamnet with an N, and of course the play is Hamlet with an L, so a minor deviation there. But yes, this is definitely a dramatized work. It's based on a novel of the same name, so don't go into it thinking it's a documentary. It's not exactly what happened, but it's a what if story about Hamlet.
All right, let's go to this next movie, and this is why I'm not in movies, sitting in Hollywood, and this is why I'm a radio guy. So if I'm sitting in a movie studio and somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I got a movie for you," and I'm talking, this could be Oscar worthy. Okay, tell me about it. Well, it's set in the 1950s and it's about ping pong. I would say, okay, next. Are you telling me that this movie, Marty Supreme, is about a 1950s ping pong guy?
That is exactly what Marty Supreme is about, but I wish you had been invited to that boardroom because I would have agreed with you that they should have said next.
Oh, okay. So you don't like it?
No, I was not a fan of Marty Supreme. I'm really surprised that so many of my fellow critics are championing this film. I think that it's because it is a very frenetic pace. It moves along at a very fast clip, and it tries to get the audience involved. Like, can you believe how much this man is sacrificing for his love of ping pong? But I didn't care. And full disclosure, for your audience, I am not a fan of Timothée Chalamet, and he plays the lead character here, and I've watched him in Dune. I watched him in Willy Wonka. I don't think he's a very talented actor. I didn't like him as Bob Dylan in a Complete Unknown, which came out last year. So that was part of it for me. Is I'm not a fan of Little Timmy, and so watching Marty Supreme, it failed to really rope me in.
It's interesting because I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen sort of the trailers of it. And for some reason, I want to say that they were trying to bill it or trying to make it like a Searching for Bobby Fischer chess movie, kind of.
Well, so this is from Benny Safdie. He is the director here. And the Safdie brothers did a film called Uncut Gems a couple of years ago with Adam Sandler. Yeah. That one made a big splash at award season 2. It was a really well-done movie that had a breakneck pace and really kept viewers on the edge of their seat because Adam Sandler's character just did the wrong thing after the wrong thing after the wrong thing, and it was really anxiety-ridden. Only one of the Safdies now, because the brothers have kind of split up their filmmaking duties, but one of them, Benny, directed Marty Supreme, and he tries to bring that same flair. But you hit the nail on the head once again, McGraw. This is why we're pals. Ping pong just doesn't cut it. Sorry, I just don't care.
Whereas Searching for Bobby Fischer, I don't know how they did it, but they made chess exciting and riveting and sort of edge of your seat. I have to watch the end of this movie.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Yes.
Yeah. All right. There's another movie here. We've talked about them all except for the last one here, and that is Song Sung Blue. And again, I don't know if I would have greenlit this picture, but this is getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, and this one and Marty Supreme are both releasing on Christmas Day. So for the audience listening right now, if they want to say, well, how can I see Marty Supreme? How can I see Song Sung Blue? They both come out on Christmas Day. And Song Sung Blue is one of the stranger releases of this year because you hear that title and maybe a melody goes through your head and you think, oh, this must be a movie about Neil Diamond. And, well, yes and no. This is not a documentary or a rockumentary about Neil Diamond. It's about a Neil Diamond tribute act. And that is just strange enough that I was excited to see the film. And I will say it's definitely worth watching. It's got Kate Hudson and Hugh Jackman, two very talented people who both can sing. They both have a history of singing, and they sing their parts here. And this one is based on a true story of down-on-their-luck musicians who couldn't make it as music artists, and so they think, well, we'll pay some bills and we'll just do a Neil Diamond tribute act. But they get really regionally popular, and of course they have their own sort of modicum of highs and lows together. And it's an interesting film because these are not gigantic stars; they're not selling out stadiums; they're playing at the bar down the street. But they still have those highs and lows of giant rock stars, and I thought it was a really moving film.
Did Neil Diamond signed off on this, or he was a technical advisor or something, or no?
I don't think so. I don't think you have to when it's all tribute bands. And the guy that wrote and directed this, based on a true story, but Craig Brewer, who did a film about 15 years ago called Hustle and Flow, that was also music-based, and that was really well received by the Academy. So I think that's why this one's coming out on Christmas. Families can go see it because the families love Neil Diamond, and I think that they'll really enjoy Kate and Hugh.
I love Hugh Jackman. He's really whatever he does. Yeah, I mean, whether it's Broadway, whether it's musicals or acting, or I mean, he's really good. All right, so Max, you're saying one battle after another, the Leo movie is the odds-on favorite to win Best Movie.
I think so. I think it's a two-picture race right now. I think Best Picture, it's going to go between One Battle After Another or Sinners. I could really see Sinners being a relative upset for a horror movie to win Best Picture. And some of the people listening might be wondering why I'm not bringing up Wicked for good, because the last Wicked movie was gigantic last year with nominations in the acting categories. I think this year the Academy will be a little softer on that. They might go costumes and production, but that's about it.
All right, good. Hey, I got about 2 or 3 minutes or so. Are you as worried as everybody else is over this Time Warner merger with Netflix or Paramount or whatever? Are you thinking that this is going to be the end of movie theaters and movies as we know it if this thing goes through one way or the other?
Yes, not to sound like Chicken Little, but yes, it's the end of cinema. I'm certainly hoping that the deal does not go through. It's not a done deal yet. I know that Paramount was trying to make a bid for a hostile takeover. I think that Netflix, which started out as a DVD mail order service, if you remember that's how they started. And now, 15 years later, they're buying one of the longest running studios in American history. That's mind-blowing to me. But Netflix is committed with viewing movies at home. They do not like to screen their movies. They've already said theatrical windows need to be shorter. So them buying Warner Brothers, that's potentially awful for people who love to see movies in the theater, and I'm one of those people. So I'm hoping the deal doesn't go through.
Do you really think? I mean, I get it. The movie theaters are on life support anyway. The movies are in the movie theater for 10 minutes, and then they're in home. You have $12 popcorn, $7 sodas. So it's getting, and the movie tickets, I love to go to the movies too, but by the time I get around to going, the movie's already been in my house for 3 weeks. So
yeah, I think the secret of saving movie theaters is going to be longer theatrical windows. When people know I can wait 2 weeks and watch it at home, they're going to wait 2 weeks. So I think keeping movies in theaters for longer, for at least 45 days, will make people go back to the movies. People have said that they're on life support for decades now, but actually look at those Avengers movies. They make billions of dollars. The Avatar movies make billions of dollars. So people are going. I just think they need that theatrical window to be longer.
Okay, but those are sort of the younger generation movies, right? I mean, not a lot of people, you'll go, but I won't necessarily go see some of those. But what about this sort of older movies for the older audience? Are they even making those anymore?
Well, yeah, one of my favorite films of the year just came out a couple of weeks ago called Eternity with Miles Teller and Elizabeth Olsen. Great film for grown-ups. And I would also say that Song Sung Blue coming out on Christmas is definitely for grown-ups as well.
All right. I got to give me Max, give me one or two sleepers that no one's ever heard about this year or that you love.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, if you like the films of Wes Anderson, who is a very acquired taste, he did a film this year called The Phoenician Scheme with Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, and Benicio del Toro. Nobody saw it in the theater, and it's wonderful. And then if you want something on the creepier science fiction side, there's a great movie about AI called Companion with Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid. Those would be my two sleeper picks.
The Phoenician Scale, did you say?
The Phoenician Scheme and Companion, yes.
All right, The Phoenician Scheme and The Companion. Max Foizey, we can read it all at ZeekFilm.org?
That's right. You can find my scribings right there at ZeekFilm.
Max Foizey, good stuff. As always, thanks for checking in. Keep your phone on. We will call as needed. Thanks, man.
Thanks so much, McGraw.
You got it. Max Foizey, Critics' Choice member since 2004, and he writes for ZeekFilm.org. He's been a well-respected film critic for years and years and years, and we've gotten into all sorts of fights and debates and great conversations about movies he loves that I don't get and movies I love that he doesn't get, which makes the conversation fun. America at Night, I'm McGraw Milhaven. Back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, stay right there. Next hour, we're going to check in with a law enforcement detective, well-respected and well-trusted. What do you think's going on inside Providence police departments as they try and figure out who this other person of interest is? What are the tips? What do you think we can learn? What do you think we know? What do you think they're going to do? And how is this all going to break? And so what do you think the police are doing? We're going to check in with our guests in the first half of next hour. Also, the back half, we're going to talk about that outbreak of measles in South Carolina. Speaking of law enforcement, FBI Director Kash Patel is under some criticism today. He appeared on a podcast with his girlfriend to discuss their relationship. Now, I don't think anyone minds him talking about his relationship with his girlfriend, but we are in the middle of a nationwide manhunt for the shooter of that Brown University slaying over the weekend. Some people are calling into question whether it was the right place at the right time to sit down and have a whimsical conversation with your girlfriend about relationships when the FBI is looking for this Brown University shooter. But there you go. All right, music says we're done for the hour. Our executive director is Alex Hinton. The man behind the stick tonight, our engineer, is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night on Westwood One.
Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Welcome back. Brown University administrators assure the campus that they are safe, even though that shooter remains at large. They have maintained a perimeter around the campus, and the campus has been closed to the public. But we are in day 4, and the Providence, Rhode Island school is now announced that they've got a second person of interest. They've released some videos, but to talk about it tonight over what is going on and what we think is going on is Nick De Mauro is a law enforcement official, well-respected and well-trusted. He is an international expert on law enforcement, community prevention initiatives. He is also executive director and CEO of LEAD, which is Law Enforcement Against Drugs and Violence. Nick De Mauro, welcome to America at Night.
No, thank you for having me on.
So let's talk about the beginning of this, because we've done enough of these where I always think in the initial shooting and when the police arrive and the law enforcement arrives, it must be such bedlam and mayhem. It must be impossible. I mean, think about it and explain to us how difficult it must be for law enforcement to determine who the innocent bystanders are and who the shooter is, because oftentimes there's other students themselves. And so to sort of assess the situation must be a nightmare for these law enforcement officials when they first get onto the scene.
Well, it is, but we also have to remember law enforcement is trained to deal with these type of situations. And their first objective is obviously caring for the victims. But the second objective must be to set up a perimeter and make sure that the area is secured. And if the suspect isn't still in the area, you got to keep them there and get to the bottom of what's going on here.
So you watch this from the beginning. We're 4 days. This is abnormal because mostly either the shooter is captured immediately, shot and killed or they kill themselves. So this is abnormal. This doesn't seem normal to me 4 days in and they still don't have the person.
No, and I'd be very surprised if the person is in the area. I'm sure they've gotten away by now. So now it becomes a different type of an investigation. You have to take a close look at digital threats. You have to get online and do an analysis of the digital activity in the area before the shooting and during the shooting. And then you have to create a profile, much like, the good old Criminal Minds show. You got to create a profile and look at, what's going on. You also got to remember something. We're dealing with a situation. They have to make sure that the situation, and that's why the profile is so important, to see if it was an isolated incident or is this something that other schools right now are in danger in the area.
So you're saying that according to the profile, according to the experts, you think the shooter is nowhere near Providence, Rhode Island anymore?
Would you be?
Well, no, but I mean,
absolutely not.
But you and I are normal thinking human beings. We wouldn't be doing this in the first place, right? I mean, this person is clearly unstable. So who knows where they would be?
No, I agree. But I think that we have to look at the profile. We have to analyze the digital footprint over the last few days to see where this was, and follow them. What I can't understand is that in this day and age, the cameras on campus at Brown University, an Ivy League school, can't pinpoint this gentleman. It's just hard to fathom.
So let's talk about the videos for a second. They've released these videos, and it's interesting in that if you, to the untrained eye, it just looks like a man is taking a stroll down the street and walking across the crosswalk, right? It doesn't look like it's a shooter running from or running to. Very nondescript and very hard to determine anything from those videos. What do you see?
I see the same thing, but that's what the unsub wants you to believe. He wants you to believe that he's just one of the people walking around town, right? But he doesn't want to give himself away. He doesn't want to draw attention to himself. Now, I will say, I may be wrong here, but looking at the video that I've seen, definitely looks like a male actor, and it looks like a situation where the unsub is trying to get away quietly. But there's still enough video in this world where I can't believe they can't track them down.
Yeah, well, Brown University, the reports are that for whatever reason, this is the one part of campus where there aren't a lot of cameras for whatever reason. It's on the edge of campus, so they say.
Okay, so that's starting to look at what he did. You don't think this person did their homework? They know that.
Yeah. I want to go back to something you said a moment ago. You said he's acting. You think he's playing coy in that he's pretending to be strolling down the street to sort of throw anybody off, not to bring attention to him as he slowly tries to walk away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And think about it. Why would you run? You're not going to run until you get caught or, But getting out of there.
Those are the actions of somebody who is cognizant, right? Somebody who, all the other profiles of all the other shooters have been much more mentally unstable, right? They went in, knew they were going to kill themselves or they were going to be killed in the fire. This is almost, if what you're saying is true, and it turns out to be true, because I know we're just all sort of speculating here. If it turns out that it was some sort of calculated, that's a different mindset altogether.
Absolutely. And that's more concerning because now we're dealing with a serial killer.
Yeah. But at this point,
now we're dealing with someone who may be in North NC State tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah. Do you think law enforcement or the FBI? What do you think they know right now? Do they have a sense of who this is? his name? Obviously they're not going to tell us, but give us some sort of background behind the scenes. What do they think?
I would venture to say that they do have some information, because I'm not getting any intel that there's, that they have. I know they have all the colleges up in that area on lockdown, and my friend's daughter is a student at URI, and they closed the campus there. So I know that there are, in the area there, they have been, locking down things. But if this was something with intel with other campuses, they would be outwardly communicate. And I haven't heard from my buddy at the president of the IACLEA, International Association of Campus Law Enforcement. But it's a situation that campuses have to deal with, and schools have to deal with. I mean, hey, you and I, sir, when we went to school, the front door was never locked, right?
No, it's a completely different world. Not to mention the stories coming out of the students who have now suffered through 2 school shootings. Right? They were their high school got shut up, and they somehow survived that. Went to Brown, thought they were safe, and now they've suffered a second school shooting. This is sort of where we are in all this. Nick Maduro is our guest. He's law enforcement, well respected, well trusted. We're just sort of trying to figure out what do you think law enforcement is going through right now. We'll take a quick break and come back. More conversations, phone call or two, a question for our guest. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Nick Maduro with us for a couple more minutes talking about the shooting and the suspect at large, the video. What does it all mean? What do you think law enforcement's going through? We'll talk more about that. Back in a moment. America at Night.
From the heart of America, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Join the nightly conversation, America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Unlike other school shootings or mass shootings, the shooter is either captured at the site or is killed in the process. But in this Brown University shooting, it's now day 4, and they are on a 4-day manhunt. No end in sight. They have released a number of videos, and they're asking the public's help as this shooter is still at large. Nick Maduro is our guest. He's executive director and CEO of LEAD, which is Law Enforcement Against Drug and Violence. He is well-respected law enforcement expert who has sat as a detective on many of these types of cases, and we're talking to him about what do we think we know and what do they know and what they're trying to do. Nick, take me through this video again. We were talking about it last segment. To see this man walking sort of without much of a purpose, walking back and forth on the street. He's wearing a mask, but he also looks like he has a belly. Looks like he's got some type of beer belly. Do you think that's his actual stature? Do you think he's hiding something in there? What do you take me through that video as you look at it?
Well, I think it is a situation where this guy is trying to disguise himself. Okay, he definitely is a male, but if you remember, they know that if they're going to get caught, they're going to get analyzed, and the video is going to analyze. So I wouldn't be surprised if the stomach is disguised. I wouldn't be surprised by the disguise here. But the bottom line is here, they should be able to track this guy right to a car, right to a house, right to somewhere. There's too many cameras in this world right now not to be able to get caught.
So you think they released a specific video, nondescript video, but they're holding back other videos with more information?
I think that they have to do what they need to do to investigate without not turning this into a circus.
Yeah.
And I think that they know more than they're telling us.
When you and I look at this video, this guy doesn't look familiar to us, but somebody who knows him, right? Just like the Luigi Mangione case, right? They released a video or a picture, and people who, but the person who knew him was like, oh, yeah, that's Luigi Mangione, right? I mean, there's going to be somebody out there who sees this video who's going to recognize this person, don't you think?
Absolutely. And, but they're not showing much facial recognition here. But I'm telling you, there's more video that they have that we're not catching.
Yeah. They had a person of interest before, and they let him go because, as they said, the evidence pointed in a different direction. They clearly have more information, right? I mean, it isn't like they're flying blind on this. Give me some hope that they have evidence that they're just not releasing to the public.
I think they don't want mass hysteria, and they want to make sure. I think that if they had information for a particular area, they would give it out. But they want to catch this guy, and they want to, they want to be able to, figure out what his MO is and what his thinking was. So they want him alive. They don't want him dead, right? They want him alive.
Yeah. It's going to be great police work when it's all said and done, right? It always is.
I think it's great. And, I think I have full confidence in the police department up in Providence. I knew the former police chief. And I really think that, the FBI involved. I'm telling you, beware. I think this guy's in trouble. He's going to get caught soon.
Yeah. I know wild speculation and an unfair question. Think another 24 hours, 48 hours? What do you think?
I don't know. I think that they're going to want to take him down as peacefully as possible. So they're going to make sure it's done. I would assume they're going to do it at night. If they have evidence, they're going to do it at night.
Yeah. The video, though, you keep watching this enhanced video, and if this is the guy, it's very creepy how it's almost disturbingly worse because he's just sort of walking back and forth nonchalant, as you say, sort of trying to throw you off the scent. If he was running or trying to look like he was guilty, right, you'd be much more, I don't know, but just his sort of lackadaisical nature walking down the street gives you the creeps just looking at the video.
Yeah, it does. And, I have the full faith and trust in the Providence Police Department and the FBI and the Rhode Island State Police. And we work very closely. LEAD, as I mentioned, is the fastest growing drug prevention program in the country. And we work very closely with the New England Police Chiefs Association. And I have full faith in law enforcement in that area.
Nick Maduro, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for your insight. Be safe and keep your phone on. We will call as needed.
Thank you, sir.
You got it. Nick Maduro is Executive Director and CEO of LEAD, Law Enforcement Against Drugs and Violence. Well-respected, well-trusted in the law enforcement. I know he's on the outside looking in, and he's our best guesstimate as to what's going on, but you can only imagine what's going on. You got to assume that somebody somewhere looks at this video and says, oh, my goodness, that's right, because that's what happened with Luigi Mangione. They saw the video, and all of a sudden, right, his relatives were like, oh, my goodness, that's the guy. Yeah, and the people at the McDonald's were like, that's the guy. And lo and behold, that was the guy, right? How many times do you see a police sketch and you're like, I don't really see it, but the person who knew the person says, oh, yeah, that's the guy. So you can only hope. And as Providence, Rhode Island is sort of in the grips of a panic attack, you just hope for the best, and you hope they can get this guy, and it's the right guy, and they sort of capture the guy, and we can all sort of move on. But as of right now, Brown University has canceled classes for the rest of the year, and the campus is on lockdown. So that's the latest there. We'll bring you anything else we hear. Coming up next, I don't know if you're aware, with so much news going on, there is a measles outbreak in South Carolina, and it is so bad that they're now starting to quarantine people because of the measles outbreak. They're not forcing people to vaccinate, and they're not forcing people to stay at home, but they are quarantining, and they are sending kids home and not going to schools. because of this measles outbreak. It's the worst they've seen in years since measles was virtually eradicated in the country. A measles outbreak in South Carolina is getting a lot of attention, should be getting a lot more attention. We'll come back and talk about it. America at Night, back in a moment.
This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Well, there's a lot of news going on, and I think a lot of people are overlooking what's going on in South Carolina. The words quarantine and remote learning are back in the news, and I know a lot of us, no joking, have hives and break out in PTSD when we hear about quarantines and remote learning, but that's exactly what is going on in South Carolina. There is a measles outbreak, and measles was basically eradicated and eliminated from the United States more than 2 decades ago. And its vaccine has been around for 20 plus years, and it was a medical miracle. Now we're seeing measles outbreaks. Adriel Bettelheim joins us from Axios. You are a health reporter. Thanks for joining us. Just how bad is this outbreak?
Well, thanks for having me. In South Carolina, it's one of 2 places right now that are really hot spots for measles outbreaks, the other being on the Utah-Arizona border. Like you said, you've got several hundred kids in quarantine. The number of cases is increasing. I think there were something like more than 24 cases, all in one kind of rural northwestern county in South Carolina. So we're seeing state health departments and some federal health officials are keeping an eye on it too, to kind of come up with a new response. It's sort of the first, high profile disease spread where you can apply some of the lessons from the pandemic, and they're kind of walking this fine line by urging people who their kids aren't vaccinated to get shots, but they're also trying to say it's a personal choice, because the folks in this area are somewhat distrustful of government and resistant to mandates, and they're not using the mandate word.
Yeah, so it's also happening at the worst time, right? Thanksgiving and Christmas, where people are together for holidays and family gatherings, and so the opportunity for the disease to spread is probably greater this time of year than at any other time of the year.
Yeah, it was really kind of unfortunate with the South Carolina cases. The first cases were detected in October, and obviously in mostly unvaccinated people, it started to spread, and that set up a situation where before Thanksgiving, as there's more indoor gatherings and for the holidays, there was a big uptick, and now they're of course worried that the thing repeats itself as we head towards Christmas. So timing is, and this is as you say, it's a super contagious disease. An infected person can walk through, and for several hours, people can get it. So it's really the kind of thing where things can multiply quite a bit, and people they move around. They're maybe living in a kind of rural outlying area, but they're commuting. In the case of South Carolina, some of them are going up to Charlotte, not too far away. So the possibility for spread is real.
Adriel Bettelheim is our guest. He's with Axios. He's been covering this. Are health officials worried that it's going to get worse before it gets better?
Yeah, I mean, the epidemiologists we've spoken to who there's a certain amount of regret. First of all, the disease was eradicated, as you said, a quarter of a century ago in the U.S., but, we're now at about 1,900, approaching 2,000 cases this year in the U.S., and when it becomes endemic, meaning, a year's worth of spread, the U.S. loses that designation. And U.S. is not alone. It actually, in Canada, same thing happened. So I think there's a real feeling that that's something that, they put the genie in the bottle. They have a vaccine that's 97% effective. And now, when you talk to them, it's just like, we're dealing with a scourge that we thought we had addressed. And it takes a lot of manpower. And it's definitely to their great consternation.
Are the officials in South Carolina seeing parents rush to get their kids vaccinated who weren't vaccinated, or there's still resistance to the vaccination even during this outbreak?
Well, I don't think the folks are there's a big rush. We're not aware in the area where this is happening in Spartanburg County in the northwestern corner of the state. There's no large-scale vaccination programs scheduled at this point, no vaccination events. In fact, the Department of Health is saying we have this mobile health unit, we have the vaccine, we're available to any organization that requests a visit. But to my knowledge, as of early this week, nobody's taking them up on it. The Centers for Disease Control has, technical support and assistance, but South Carolina hasn't asked for that yet, according to the feds. So the situation is sort of local officials are trying to make the case that the vaccine is safe, it's effective, that all the misinformation about vaccines are out there. This is one that you can trust, and they're hoping that people make a personal choice and get their kids the shots.
Yeah, the difficult part of this is, and I'm not trying to be political here, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the health secretary, has sort of said everything, right? They've said, hey, the vaccines are the most effective way to prevent this, but they've also given a nod and a wink to those who are anti-vaxxers. So he's sort of all over the place, is he not, on this?
It's very confusing for someone, without a medical background and who, hasn't had to contend with a threat like this. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Early in the year, when there was the measles outbreak in West Texas, Kennedy downplayed the threat, and he's previously touted vitamin A and drugs like inhaled steroids and oral antibiotics as treatment for measles. And when you talk to experts, they say there's no evidence that any treatments can speed up recovery. And pediatricians have called his claim, irresponsible and risky. Well, anyhow, he has since come around to make the statement that vaccines are the most effective way of preventing it. And obviously, people but they have, the feds underneath him have talked about breaking up the combined MMR vaccine into individual shots. And this is an important vaccine in the childhood immunization schedule. It's a prerequisite to go to school. So, it's a lot to sort through for folks, and they have to trust who they trust, right? So it's they're going to be turning to doctors, maybe to their churches for information.
You said that people are quarantining, they are remote learning, right? Those sort of conjure up all sorts of COVID-19 images. How about the hospitals? And are children getting treated in the hospitals? Are the hospitals overrun? How sick are these children who are coming in who have the measles?
So our understanding is that a lot of it is sort of the stay-at-home quarantining, sort of a familiar scenario with COVID. Where it gets dicey is if you're, a young child, if you're immunocompromised, if you're pregnant, then you're a higher risk for life-threatening complications, brain swelling, encephalitis, long-term immune system suppression called immune amnesia. So I think along with just more common issues like severe diarrhea and pneumonia. So I think most people are kind of riding it out at home, and in these quarantine situations, we are not hearing that the local health systems are being particularly stressed at this point. Obviously, there's plenty of vaccine out there and support. So it's not quite the, like the dark days of the Delta variant during the COVID pandemic,
right,
when, they were having to do heavy duty triage.
And the other interesting thing about this is, right, it's mostly children, because the adults, got the measles vaccine when they were kids, right? This is a relatively new phenomenon where parents aren't giving their kids vaccines. So we're seeing more kids get measles than adults in situations like this?
Well, they're more vulnerable. I mean, we're seeing, in general, vaccine exemptions going up. The vaccination rates have declined as more parents waive the shots, or some of them, it's not like a conscious thing. They're just falling behind on recommended vaccination schedules. And then the natural immunity that the adults may have had, from years ago also goes away. So it's kind of a combination of some people consciously avoiding it, other people, just not getting to it. And, I would say the kids certainly are more at risk, being in schools and
right.
just in more communal settings. So, yeah.
Yeah, you also have to think, right? You mentioned Texas. Now it's on the Utah-Arizona border. Now it's popping up in South Carolina. You have to assume that it's going to start popping up in other places around the country. Spartanburg, South Carolina isn't any special than any other place in town or in the country. So we can all assume that it's going to start spreading to other parts of the country, do we not?
Yeah, I mean, the hot zones, the folks keep an eye on areas where the immunization rate is under the 95% that the epidemiologists tell you is necessary to sort of stop the spread, to put it bluntly. So these are areas that may be more outlying. They may be, some are politically conservative. There is still a lot of COVID hangover, pandemic, hangover, distrust of federal health officials and directives like, social distancing and masking and what have you. So, I mean, these are likelier to have it. And there are some areas where there are religious communities that discourage vaccination in general. So it's some of this is not just, can you put it COVID hangover, COVID backlash, but people's, religious views. And, that way it's super confined to one cohort. But again, they're going out in the community, they're going shopping, what have you. And that's why in West Texas, it kind of spread from a Mennonite community into the neighboring counties.
Yeah. Any children, we had a couple children die in Texas. Any have passed away in South Carolina yet from this?
Not that it has been directly attributed. No. So that's good news. It's about 100 plus confirmed cases. The number keeps changing, and more than 250 quarantined. And a few of them have been quarantined like multiple times because the school reopens and then there's new infections. So it's just like this kind of rolling mess of a situation.
What a nightmare. Adriel Bettelheim, who is with Axios. Thank you for joining us on a busy night. I know it was last minute, but I read your article today on Axios.com, and I was fascinated. It's not getting enough attention. It probably should. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your time, and hope to hear from you soon. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Adriel Bettelheim, who is with Axios, who is their health reporter on the measles outbreak in South Carolina. Not getting a lot of attention, but, right, it was in Texas. It was in, right, as you said, the Utah-Arizona border, and now in South Carolina. They're now quarantining. They're now remote learning. And you can only assume that after the holidays, right, holidays, families getting together, and Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year's, and all of a sudden, right, don't be surprised if you wake up January 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th, and there are other hotspots around the country with measles outbreaks because of the people and the lack of vaccination. And once it drops under that 95%, the experts said that you were going to start seeing measles outbreaks, and that's exactly what you're starting to see. McGraw Milhaven, America at Night, back in a moment.
Live from coast to coast, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Coming to you from the heart of the nation, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, we'll do open phones next hour, but to finish out hour number 2, Wall Street Journal has a late story. Not much breaking news, but some interesting little tidbits about the final days of final moments, final hours of Rob and Michelle Reiner's life. He went to, as we said last night, he went to a Christmas party at Conan O'Brien's house. And according to a person, this is from the Wall Street Journal, according to a person whom the gathering was described, Nick, who has struggled with substance abuse issues for more than half his life, interrupted comedian Bill Hader, who Rob had introduced Nick to earlier at the party with a series of strange questions. What's your name? What's your last name? Are you famous? Nick, 32, the son, had been asking other partygoers the same question, the person said, behavior that would be unusual at any party, but was particularly so at a gathering of entertainment A-listers at Conan O'Brien's house. He was eventually asked to leave. Nick, the son, was eventually asked to leave. The person said it was the last time that Rob and Michelle Reiner's friends in Hollywood would see them alive. The couple was found dead at their home Sunday afternoon, less than 24 hours after the party. Nick is now facing 2 charges of first-degree murder in their deaths, which followed a knife attack, prosecutors said today. His lawyer, declined comment on the allegations, and a representative for the family did not respond for comments. The only other part of this was at some point the daughter finds them and then calls the police and apparently called Billy Crystal, who lives in the neighborhood, came over. Some pictures saw Billy Crystal distraught, walking into the house, walking out of the house. There's another report that Larry David was there as well. You want to give the family as much respect as humanly possible. Just a tragic story and a sorry news cycle. Just a really terrible news cycle as we come up and approach the Christmas season. Next hour, we'll keep it a little lighter. We'll talk about anything you want, anything under the sun. We can talk movies. We can talk old movies, new movies. We can talk news of the day. I want to leave you with this. Do I have time to tell this story? There was a story in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was today, where I'll leave you on a little lighter note, and then next hour we can take open phones and take phone calls from all over the country. So we know that today that children bring their parents to job interviews. I know, it's a thing. Never in a million years would I think and say, Mom, do you have any questions? When I got this job, my mother was not involved in the hiring process. We also know that there are stories of parents who move in to college with the kids. They might not live in the dorm room, but they get an apartment or a house next to campus, and so they can do the laundry, or the kids can come over for Sunday dinner. And so this is a thing now. Wall Street Journal had an article today that now kids, young adults, are turning their dating app profiles over to their parents so their parents can pick and choose. The parents are complaining they're too picky. And so the parents are swiping left and swiping right on the dating apps. Imagine your mother seeing the guys you have to choose from on social media. Not a lot of shirts on social media. So the parents get to see, then the women are like, great, you want to see the choices I have? Look at these losers I get to choose from on social media sites. So parents now in charge of dating sites. Boy, the world never ceases to amaze me. Open phones next hour. This hour, our executive director is Alex Hinton. Our engineer behind the stick is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven, and this is America at Night on Westwood One.
Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Phones Hour. We love it. Pretty fun night tonight. We were talking to Max Foizey, movie critic, about some Oscar movies. And yeah, one of the Oscar movies he thinks is a movie about a 1950s ping pong aficionado. So who knew? Who knew that was a thing? But apparently it is. So we can get into some of that if you want to. The phone numbers are as follows: 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. I am not giving up on the text line. I'll get that text line here up and running here in the next week or so. I miss my text line. I like the text line. I know a lot of people can't call in and wait, though the wait's not that long unless you wait till the end of the hour. Usually we have a lot of open phone lines earlier in the hour, and then you wait till the end of the hour, and then, of course, all the phone calls line up, and I got to rush through them. So it's always easier if you call sooner rather than later. But I know some people can't call. You're driving or you're working, but you want to give us a shout-out. You want to tell us something good, bad. I did something stupid. I said something wrong. The text line's a great way to sort of keep me honest. So we'll get that text line up and going here, I promise. The phone numbers are as follows: 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. We're coming up on a very, very relaxing season. I'm going to be here through the holidays. I don't have much vacation time since I'm so new. I haven't accrued any vacation time. So we're only taking off Christmas Eve and Christmas, and then we're taking off the 31st and the 1st. Otherwise, we're going to be here through the holidays trying to figure out the show and get it going in the right direction. So we're thrilled if you join us, and we always love open phones, whether it's and please, I say this often, but don't think that you can't call. Don't think if you just want to be part of the conversation, have some fun, and do something off the wall. You want to go rogue. You want to ask a question about anything, fun, goofy, silly, sports, movies, entertainment, history, politics, you name it. The hour is yours. You sort of help drive the conversation. That's every audience study we've ever done comes back and they say open phones are the best. So I certainly want to carve it out and give you guys a chance to, guys and gals, a chance to feel comfortable calling the show and sort of making this hour sort of see what comes of it. So 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Paul in Boise, Idaho, welcome to America at Night. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, you betcha. Thanks for taking my call. I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to the newfangled guns and the stocks that they have that can be assembled and disassembled almost instantaneously. But I recall Biden, when he had a lucid moment, that he was showing off a bump stock gun. And am I incorrect in thinking that I heard that the classroom that was shot up, everybody in there said it was a long gun that did the damage to the kids?
In this Brown University shooting. In the Brown University shooting, yeah, apparently it was a rifle, and I am certainly no expert when it comes to guns. I have been hunting a few times, have gone to a shooting range a couple times, but I am certainly no expert when it comes to guns. From what I understand, it was a rifle, and from reading some of the firsthand accounts of this, 40 to 50 shots got off at any given time. So I don't know what that means exactly. I haven't read bump stock, but that bump stock, if memory serves me right, and I reserve the right to be corrected, I think the bump stock came from that Las Vegas shooting with that concert where the guy was in the hotel and had a bump stock and was shooting people down on the crowd. And I believe, and again, I reserve the right to be corrected, but I think it was President Trump that tried to ban the bump stock and then ultimately was overturned by the Supreme Court. I have to check that. I'll check that on the break, but I think the bump stock was actually all banned by Trump or tried to be banned by Trump, and then the Supreme Court overturned it. But I could be wrong. I'll check it on the break.
Biden tried to get that next. And
yeah, I'll have to double check that.
Yeah, it just seems odd. That guy was casing the neighborhood. He wasn't just walking around looking at the flora and fauna. He was casing that neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a weird video. He's just nonchalantly sort of walking the neighborhood. You would think if he was trying to get away, he'd be a little more quickly trying to get away and not look so nonchalantly. I mean, if he really is trying to look innocent, that's even more disturbing. If an active shooter got away and he's sort of just hanging around the neighborhood pretending to look innocent. So we'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. Paul, thanks for the phone call. Let's go to Eduardo in Tampa. Eduardo, you are on America at Night.
Yeah, McGraw. Hello. First time calling on your show. I wanted to get into Venezuela. I support limited military action, and I heard somebody, a brigadier general on a New York station, saying they're going to be taking off the Gerald Ford very soon as far as these land strikes that are coming. And the president's going to be talking tomorrow. I don't know if that's going to be about that, but it could be something about something else. But another thing, too, that doesn't get mentioned in the media is the caravans. You don't see those anymore. You know, people that were going through the Darien Pass. And, you know, there were people that were coming from Venezuela, of course. So, and boats are going into ports in Spain and Netherlands from South America. From some of these South American countries. The Darien Gap the borders have been closed, or however you want to. The Darien Gap is there's those caravans through there have sort of slowed to a trickle at all. But why are you in favor? Why are you in favor of America invading Venezuela? Well, it's more the person than the country, and we're talking about Maduro. That's what I'm in favor. So I'm kind of along the Noriega. Remember the Panamanian 1989? So
I remember that very well. Yes.
That. So I'm leaning towards that than shock and awe, because some people think it's going to be shock and awe. I'm not in favor of that.
Yeah. So you're for regime change in Venezuela,
right? Right.
Yeah. And would you be in favor of American troops? They used American troops, did they not, to go get Noriega in Panama? Are you in favor of sending American troops to go get Maduro in Venezuela?
Yeah. I mean, so long as we're not getting into like guerrilla warfare, you know, it comes back to shock and awe. I don't want to be doing anything like that.
Yeah. Why is it that you think a Maduro should be gone?
Well, I think this should have happened when Chavez was in there, but he's a international menace, with Hezbollah and drug running and gun running and all this. It's just somebody bad that too close to our.
Here's what I don't understand. Well, first of all, experts say that the drugs aren't going through Venezuela, right? So the drugs are coming from China.
Right. Yeah.
And then they also say that he's sort of being friendly with Russia and China to the detriment of the United States. But we're friendly with Russia. We're friendly with China. We're selling chips to China. So I don't understand. Are we friends with China or are we worried about China? Because why are we selling them artificial intelligence chips, right? Why is NVIDIA allowed to sell chips to China? But Maduro, we're going to invade Venezuela because Maduro is being friendly to China. And the drugs are coming from China. So I don't really understand why we're going after Venezuela, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And then he's not exactly doing a good job as far as, the way he treats his people. Let's put it that way.
There's lots of rulers who don't treat their people very well. But at some point, there has been a sea change. Republican administrations were always about, right? We're not the world's policeman, but somehow the Republican Party has become the world's policeman, and this is an example of that. I don't know when that changed in the Republican Party because President Bush came to power saying we're not the world's policeman and would get cheered for it. Then he invades Afghanistan. Then he invades Iraq for reasons because of 9/11. But now we're going to start invading. I wasn't in favor of either one,
Right,
and now we're in favor of invading Venezuela. I'm not against it just per se. I just don't understand why. What is the benefit to the United States for Maduro going away and then installing our own government in there? I don't understand it.
Yeah, it is closer to our hemisphere, and my understanding is that
why don't we go into Cuba? Let's just go into Cuba again. Are we the world's policemen? Are we the?
No, I definitely
want
to do that. Yeah,
might as well go into Mexico. That's right. There's more
yeah,
benefit to.
Speaking of that,
Mexico.
They could be doing that against cartels. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
right. Why Venezuela? Let's just take over Mexico.
Mexico's closer. Mexico's closer to the U.S. than Venezuela. There you go.
Eduardo, thanks for the phone call. John
Thank
in
you very
Reno.
much, okay.
You got it. John, Eduardo, call back anytime. John in Reno, we'll get to you in a second. We have a couple lines open for you. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. America at Night. Back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven, where the nation comes to talk. Relax. You're listening to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, it's open phones. 1-844-2-McGraw. 1-844-262-4729. 1-844-262-4729 or 1-844-2-McGraw. That's MCGRAW. We've got a couple lines open, so if you're thinking about calling in, now's a good time. We'll go to Reno, Nevada, and check in with John. John, hello.
Hello, McGraw. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for checking in.
I wanted to touch on Cash Patel and then quickly on Venezuela and Maduro. I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Cash Patel's. I think he's doing a great job. He's director of the FBI because he knows about law enforcement, but more importantly, he's a good organizer and he's a good budgeter. He's a director. He's not to solve individual cases. That's not his specialty of expertise. When the leads come up like they did in the Kirk case, the case will be solved, and it will be solved. Just like the Kirk case, there's people that initially started complaining about him, about they arrested the guy and made an announcement they had a suspect, and then they released him. They tried to make a brouhaha about that. This is just that same stuff coming back. He'll get the case solved.
You know what? I actually agree with you in that I understand that they had a person of interest. They investigated him. It didn't work out. They released him. In a chaotic situation like this, you don't know what you don't know. And so you hold the guy. Now, if there was allegations that they waterboarded him and they tortured him and it turned out it wasn't the guy or they released his name and dragged him through the mud and all that, okay, then you're like, okay, that's not the way to handle it. But it was a chaotic situation. They got a guy who they thought might be connected in some way, shape, or form. They vetted him. They followed the evidence. It turned out it wasn't him. They released him. No harm, no foul, right? No one's perfect. Police officers are, looking around in the dark for these answers anyway. I don't have a problem with what he did, but I don't know if he's a good budgeter or not. How do you know if he's a good budgeter?
Well, that's why he got nominated to be the director. He's good at running an organization. I forget exactly what he did beforehand, but he wasn't made director because he had a long history of solving cases like Dr. Dedman that solved the Atlanta child murder cases. He's not a investigator like that. That's not why he was chosen. He was chosen to run the organization, and that means management and budgeting.
Yeah,
that's where his skills lie.
What's your thoughts on Venezuela?
Well, the thing is, just about a week and a half ago, Trump had a phone call with Maduro. Maduro was negotiating a surrender. He wanted full immunity for him and his people worldwide for all crimes they may have committed. And Trump came out and flatly said no. But he knows his time is up. The people are very tired of him. He cheated the last 2, maybe 3 elections. This last election, he lost overwhelmingly. He has no popular support. They're impoverished. Now's the time to put pressure on them. All their oil ships we should confiscate. Their drug ships we should sink. True, they're not making a lot of money off the drugs, but the drug money is supporting the crooked regime. All that oil, there's embargoes against that. That's all against international law, what they're doing with the ghost ship tankers. We should put as much pressure as possible on them. They're ready to break. I'm not saying send troops in now, but, Venezuela in our youth, McGraw, was one of the richest countries in Latin America. It was a very successful country. And it would be just a matter of 10, 20 years for them to take that title back.
Yeah, but if I all the things interesting you say that, but I'm not so sure that Maduro is going to fold like a house of cards if we blow up a couple of small drug running boats or we take a couple of tankers from him. I'm not so sure strong-armed men like that fold that easily. You're going to have to go in and get him. He was already
negotiating his surrender with Trump 10 days ago.
Well, that doesn't mean anything because it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So who cares if he was negotiating with him? It didn't happen.
No, not yet. But commercial.
Well, maybe. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, if the other countries stop flying to Venezuela, it'll put even more pressure on them like they did. They cut off international flights.
Yeah. So you're okay with us being somewhat of the world's policeman then?
Not necessarily the world, but certainly Western Hemisphere Christian countries.
All right. What about Cuba? Should Cuba be next?
What
about Mexico?
I don't think so.
What about Mexico?
Cuba doesn't have the wealth or power that Venezuela does. And
what
Cuba
about Mexico?
Was lost a long time ago.
What about Mexico?
Cuba might be too far gone at the time.
What about Mexico? You want us to invade Mexico?
No. I'm a huge fan of new President Shane Baum. She's doing a great job. I got to go. All right,
I got to go. Thanks for the phone call. That's John in Reno. Hold that thought. Tony in Montreal. We've got Paul in Zanesville, Ohio, and a couple of phone calls for you. 1-844-2-McGraw. Open phones. America at Night. Back in a moment.
Coming to you from the heart of the nation, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
All right, it's open phones, 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Let's try and get through some of these calls. Tony in Montreal, welcome to America at Night.
Taking my call. I just want to ask, McGraw, have you heard any outrage from any religious order in the Muslim world regarding the Bondi attack or the attack in the United States at Brown University? Because I have it myself.
Have I heard any outrage from the Muslim community? Not specifically from a Muslim leader, but why would? I mean, just sort of the nature horrific of the case. I'm not sure that I'd be looking for anything specifically from the Muslim community. Why would they feel the need to speak out against this? I mean, maybe the shooting in Australia because it was anti-Semitic, but. Why would they feel the need to sort of specifically call out the Brown University shooting? Do we know that man was Muslim? Was it a religious in nature?
Answer your question. The Bondi one, I did not hear any religious leader, and there's many imams in the United States, England, and all over the world that specifically condemned the attack on those Jewish people that were practicing nothing but their own. Happiness on a beach.
I'm sure there were many Muslim leaders who were horrified and sent their prayers to the Jewish people in Australia. But I mean, I don't know what's your point.
I think that in the Islamic religion, to condemn the belief. And, I don't want to get into this argument with you because as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe all Muslims, 99% of all Muslim people are peace-abiding people. The Muslim Brotherhood is a movement, a cult, and it is a dangerous cult.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree, but I don't know if we're arguing over it. I mean, it's not news that a Muslim cleric would send their wishes to to the Jewish community. It would only make news if they didn't, or somebody said something, horrific. I haven't heard anybody say anything terrible about or inappropriate when it comes to the shooting in Australia.
My point is that if there's a leader of the Catholic Church, it's the Pope in the Vatican. He will make a comment regarding an issue. Okay, so I'll just say this: I did not hear any type of official statement worldwide denouncing that event. And those individual people, from what I understand, were Muslims and they were Pakistanis. As to your question about Brown University, the person who was shot, that what I've heard from other sources today that are legitimate sources, I don't want to name them because they're competitive radio stations with this one. They said very simply that the person that was shot was a well-known Republican Christian woman on campus, and that the person of interest is a person that had certain roots.
Tony, thanks for the phone call. I don't know any of that to be true. That could be true or not. We'll wait until the official word comes out. There's plenty of time for the true story to come out. I haven't heard it, so I'm not going to speculate it. But thanks for the phone call. Paul in Zanesville, Ohio. Paul, welcome to America at Night.
Good evening, McGraw. It took me a minute to get used to that name, McGraw Milhaven, and so I had to wait to call in just a little bit. I'm a long-time listener since clear back in the Jimbo Hannon days, and I just wanted your opinion, about, I want to segue this into, what happened to Rob Reiner and so forth. What do you think, what's your opinion on, publicly executing these people when you know that Rob Reiner's son killed him and his wife? Now, I mean, I'm a person that looks for results, and, they can talk about gun laws and so forth, but none of this stuff seems to be working. Now, when you take somebody and you show it to people on the public square and say, hey, you go out here, you're murdering people, you're killing people, and this goes for all kinds of different criminals. I'm not saying if you're a weed dealer or something, but I'm saying if you're bringing fentanyl in our country and so forth, and we know it's you, we got you to a damn T, because, our surveillance systems, like with these boats, and you're going to say, well, Paul, you're going from one subject to another. But with these boats, these people with 4 outboard motors that can do 160 mile an hour, they're not out fishing. I never caught a fish at 160 mile an hour. I mean, what is wrong with publicly executing these people that do this? And we know they got them. The Mendez brothers, amongst others.
Okay, can I answer the question? Yeah. Can I answer the question? Yeah. Okay. All right. First of all, Paul, I'm 50. Hold on, I'm 58 years old. I haven't gotten used to my name yet. So the fact that you got used to it in 3 days is fantastic. Yeah. 2, you're sort of all over the board, and you mentioned different sort of stories there. 1, there's first degree murder. There's homicide. There's all sorts of varying degrees of murder. And I don't know in this country if I would or most people would be in favor of executing the criminally insane, right? I mean, if this man is truly in some mental health deranged situation, I'm not so sure that is what we want to do. I don't know if, the Menendez brothers should or shouldn't. I know that you have to convict a person, right? You just can't start blowing up boats in the Caribbean because you think they're carrying guns. That's not necessarily how we do it. We have to arrest them, convict them in a court of law, a jury of their peers, and then sentence them. That's sort of the system is set up. So I'm not so sure just, taking a judge and jury of one man deciding that, oh, he's a drug runner, let's shoot him. But I will say this, that I am actually in favor of public executions. And assuming that they're not mentally unstable and all those other things, right? And I am in favor of putting it on television. I'm in favor of it because I think in this country, we don't believe that our government is giving us vaccines that are actual vaccines, but yet we believe them when they tell us that they've executed somebody. I'm not saying you should be forced to watch it, but I'm saying if you're doing it in the name of the citizens of the United States of America, we should be able to see our state, our federal government. If they're going to execute someone with the technology today, we should be able to see it. Paul, thank you for the phone call.
Well answered.
Move on.
Well answered.
All right, Paul, thanks for the phone call. Let's go to, I think we've got Gene in St. Louis. Gene, welcome to America at Night.
Thank you, sir. My concern is no one in Congress seems to be paying attention to President Trump. He is totally off the charts. This last comment he made about the Reiner's death, that was totally uncalled for. I think someone should call for him to be mentally evaluated because I don't think he's rational.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about that. As for his comments, I was disappointed in his comments. I wish the president of the United States would be more sympathetic to a citizen, no less a beloved the movie maker who's made great movies that are loved by people all across the aisle. James Woods is about as right as you can be. James Woods worked with Rob Reiner, and they were friends. Just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean you should be, disrespectful when they die a tragic death, especially the president of the United States. I wish that our president would be a little bit more sympathetic and a little bit more classy and had a little more, class. That's all. I wish a lot of people had a lot more class, especially our president of the United States who sets the tone for the country. I remember back in the Clinton days when honor and class and character were an important part of the presidency. I wish we could get back to that.
I would really appreciate if we could get back to that because morally, I'm really upset over that. The comments about those deaths. You know, who would in their right mind would make comments like that?
Yeah, it is weird, Gene, and I thank you for the phone call. It is weird that the president of the United States would laud over Zoran Mondani a few weeks ago in the Oval Office after he said such horrific things about the president. And yet the president would then, when Rob Reiner dies in a tragic death, killed by the hands, what seems to be allegedly from his son, you would think if he was that sympathetic to Mondani, he would at least be a little more sympathetic to the Rob Reiner, say the nice things, and just sort of move on. But no, that's not in his nature. He is, it's who he is. The American people knew what they were voting for. They knew what they were getting. This is who they wanted. I just wish he was a little classier. So, Gene, thanks for the phone call. David in San Francisco, you are on America at Night. Thanks for calling.
Oh, yeah, no trouble. You know, the woman that called a minute ago, I agree with her. And when you start looking at what they call misappropriation of government funds, you take a guy who might be the police chief or a mayor or something like that, and he starts spending the government money on messing with his enemies, using government money to mess with his enemies. And so it has nothing to do with foreign policy or, health and safety of the population. The guy's just using his power for personal gain. And so he's getting the security money. He's getting the tough guy sheriff. He's getting all of the figures to come marching in and mess with his enemies on the taxpayer's dime. So, and in fact, you study the rise of Hitler. He did exactly that. He'd come up with these fake emergencies, hire quick cops who had no accreditation, and so he'd basically get the gangs on the government payroll. And then, have brown shirts and the black shirts and the whole pack of other ones, regional thugs. so when Trump is moving into each of these cities, guess what he's building? So, we got to keep an eye on our property. This guy is using our taxes to go for his personal gain. And simple, misappropriation of government funds. And he'll pit every religion against each other. He'll pit each ethnicity against each women and against men, children, against aged. He'll pit them all against each other just so he doesn't get caught. So it's time we caught him and get back to normal.
David in San Francisco, thank you for your comments. Have a good night.
Pleasure.
You got it. 1-844-2-McGraw. 1-844-262-4729. 1-844-2-McGraw. 1-844-262-4729. America at Night. It's open phones. Got a couple phone calls for you. Back in a moment.
Join the conversation. Call 844-2-McGraw. America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Join the conversation. Call 844-2-McGraw. America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, we're back. Final couple of nuggets of information before we head out for the evening. 1-844-2-McGraw. 1-844-262-4729. Looks like some late breaking news here. Looks like the investment firm led by Jared Kushner is pulling out of Paramount's bid to take over Warner Brothers. So that's interesting. The news comes after the Wall Street Journal reported that the Warner Brothers is set to tell shareholders that they want to reject the Paramount bid and go with Netflix. So a lot of fast-moving news on that. But it looks like Jared Kushner's group is pulling out of the Paramount bid. Now, I don't know. I have to talk to the experts, but I don't know if that's the Saudi money or that's the Qatari money or that's the Sovereign Wealth Fund, but Jared Kushner at least is out, according to some reports late night. And I'll leave you with this. Lots of sad news, and last night we dedicated the show to Rob Reiner. Tonight, I'd like to dedicate the show to a gentleman named Anthony Geary. Now, you ask yourself, who is Anthony Geary? You may know the name, you may not know the name Anthony Geary, but you do know the character he played. Of course, he played Luke on General Hospital. That's right, the famed Luke and Laura. The actor was Anthony Geary, passed away at the age of 78 the last day or two. Word just breaking. And yes, guilty as charged. I was a General Hospital fan back in the early 80s. Now, look, I got to tell you, I grew up with a bunch of sisters, and right about 3 o'clock, General Hospital would come on, and I would just happen to be coming home from whatever camp or baseball or work-related whatever, and I got home right about 2:50 or so, and they had already commandeered the one television in the house, and so I was stuck watching General Hospital. I also got stuck watching All My Children, too, but that's a whole other story with Cliff and Nina and Cliff. But I ended up getting hooked on General Hospital. And it was right around the time Laura was getting ready to marry Scotty Baldwin. They were getting married on the ship in the harbor on the dock. And Luke came in, and Luke and Scotty Baldwin got into a fight. One punch. Luke knocked Scotty Baldwin into the water. The wedding was off, and Luke and Laura were able to live happily ever after. I was hooked, completely hooked. So Anthony Geary, the actor, all these years later, has since passed away. So it is sad to hear that the man from your youth died. But I'd like to dedicate today's show to Anthony Geary. What'd you tell me, Richard? I missed that. Oh, all right. Is it Catherine or Kevin, did you say? Catherine, you'll be the last call of the night. Catherine, welcome to America at Night.
Oh, hi. It's the first time I've heard your radio program.
Well, thank you for calling.
Thank you. And you got me when you're talking about class, because that's the first thing on my list for a leader. You got to have class. So I'm going, okay, should I worry being out here in BC, Canada, if Trump's going into Venezuela because of his threats, the 51st state stuff? And I want to pick your brain on that.
You want to pick my brain on if I think Venezuela is going to be the 51st state?
No,
or if I think Canada is going to be the 51st state.
Canada should worry. If we should worry if he's going to come and invade us, like he's doing in Venezuela.
I would probably not worry. But then again, don't take any of my advice when it comes to stock picking. So I'm not very good at picking the future. But I would tell you, probably don't worry. Canada is not going to be the 51st state. It might be the 52nd to the 57th state. No, I'm kidding you. No, I don't think that's going to happen. Canada and Americans have great mutual respect for each other, even though Trump loves to saber rattle. But Catherine, I got to go. We are out of time. That's it. Our executive director tonight is Alex Hinton. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night on Westwood One. So long, everybody. See you tomorrow.